We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. And you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more. We're going to win.
Plans to cut the federal government, Elon Musk and his Doge team. The world's richest man, fresh off selling Teslas on the South Lawn of the White House, is also trying to juggle a business empire, which is getting hammered on the stock market. Now he's setting his sights on what he has called, quote, Ponzi scheme, Social Security.
The wage report in entitlement spending, which is which is most of the federal spending is entitlements. So that's like the big one to eliminate, because that's the sort of $500 billion, maybe $700 billion a year.
Here to talk about it, Kara Swisher, CNN contributor, host of Pivot and On with Kara Swisher. Kara, thanks so much for joining me. I know you've been hanging out at South by Southwest.
I have.
You've been busy, so but it means you're out there hearing what people are saying. And
Indeed.
We mentioned getting hammered by his businesses, but also like people are doing acts of vandalism against cyber trucks. You once called them a heat shield. What's going on with the heat shield for Trump?
Well, it's not good from a business point of view. The stock's been going down precipitously, largely because of reports out of Europe, and here in the United States, the sales have fallen off. It's not a surprise, one, because he's a polarizing figure, and the people who buy his cars are largely people who might vote Democratic, and he's got to attract the same amount of, I guess, red state people or MAGA people to buy the cars. Secondly, the cars haven't been innovated that much recently, and there's a lot of competitors, as you know. And so that's probably impacting at the same time. And then inevitably, cars that dominate tend to not dominate. And so he hasn't been paying attention a lot at Tesla because he's focused on other things. So that's among the many things that are happening for him. But a polarizing figure is probably at the center of it.
Can I ask about that clip we heard? Because it's one thing to talk about Social Security on Joe Rogan, right? And do the what maybe perhaps.
Yeah.
It's another thing to do it on the network, right? That everybody watches, especially people in that age group, right? Who might be thinking about Social Security. What do you make of how far he's getting out front on this topic?
Well, maybe he's testing it out. Maybe he's seeing what's what. Maybe he talked to Trump about doing that. Obviously, he can do math. Entitlements are the biggest part. And, he hasn't really saved almost any money compared to how big the federal government is. And so he wants to have some wins on the board, and he's got to go, why do you rob a bank? You go where the money is. When you're trying to cut money from the government, you have to go to entitlements. And of course, that's what's beyond the third rail. It's way beyond the third rail, but he can't help himself. He has to say what the problem is, and that is where you would cut if you actually were going to save money for the taxpayer.
In podcast land, Gavin Newsom, the California governor, having some interesting conversations, one with Steve Bannon about Elon Musk. Here's a sample of something they talked about.
Your issues with Elon, and we haven't even gotten to that. And I know that's all.
Do I have any issues?
Yeah, I know. What you called him evil. You called him a racist. You have a
parasitic,
illegal alien, I think was your exact phrase, your phrase, not mine. Though we may share some commonality in terms of concern about what he's doing.
They also had this long conversation about California made Elon. That was what Bannon was saying, and talking about how basically the left was into oligarchs until they turned against them. Can you talk, what is the dynamic going on here that we're hearing out loud?
Which part? Gavin chuckling it up with Bannon, or which part do you want me to talk about?
Maybe the part about California having made Musk and now him being a very different political figure.
Well, that's true. I think California was critical to a lot of these people that are now sidling up to Trump. It's provided a place where innovation could thrive, and that's where most of these companies started. And Elon certainly ran his companies in California and has grown them there. And now that the taxes are too high, or they disagree politically, or they have issues around transgender issues, or whatever it happens to be for any of them, they're moved out, they've gone to tax-free environments, and they want to dump on California. That's very true. That's 100% true.
There's going to be a tech summit this Friday, I think. And I wanted to ask you about something you said about the sort of ultimate goal, that there is something called the God's view that is the goal. What is that? And sort of how prominent is this idea?
But there's a couple things. There's a unified CEO theory. They've got a lot of theories in Silicon Valley. This one is a dashboard where you can see everything, and you can see the entire government, for example. It used to be used around Uber, which was looking at everybody's rides, and you could see someone's life by looking at their Uber rides, for example, where they're going, where they're coming from, etc. So you have a God's view of the whole thing. The more of a God's view you have, the better in technology.
But are we going to get that out of the government? Is that the goal here? I mean, Musk does have access to sensitive information. He's calling himself IT support. Like, he's injected into the system, so to speak.
Yeah, every time he diminishes himself, I think he knows exactly how important he is. And so I suspect he wants a God's view of the entire government. Actually, our government systems have never been joined in the way he is trying to do, because for lots of reasons, inefficiency, lack of technology, and the idea that we don't want all that information in one place. We don't have a Department of Information like other countries do. And so we don't want to have that because we don't want the government spying on us quite that way. Of course, the government has an enormous viewpoint into every American, and that could be a dangerous thing with the wrong people in charge.
Kara, thanks so much for...
And Trump's tariffs, making America great again. It's a great strategy. If somebody's finally doing something out of the White House, President Trump, that is, that says you have to take an action in another country.
Yeah. No pain, no gain. That's what we used to tell our football players. There's going to be some pain with tariffs. But tariffs got us back as the strongest economy in the world when President Trump was in the first time. He knows what he's doing. Democrats, get out of the way, shut up. You have no answers. You didn't do anything right in the last 4 years with Joe Biden. Well, we have a game plan. Trump has a game plan along with Howard Lutnick and the other people that are pushing the tariffs. We can turn this thing around. But, folks, let me tell you, this is our last chance. If we can't get it done now with tariffs and with pulling regulations and getting people back to work and cutting our debt and cutting the amount of spending, we're not going to have the country that we've had before. So people need to just listen, learn from this, understand it's short-term pain. We're going to get this turned around. President Trump knows exactly what he's doing, and he has a game plan, something Democrats didn't know anything about.
I watched an unelected bureaucrat last night, not from DOE, from a different agency, lament the fact that she doesn't have influence and power. Well, guess what? You're an unelected bureaucrat. You don't get influence and power. The person who gets influence and power is the duly elected president of the United States and those who he appoints. So get rid of the bureaucrats. To Laura's point, give it to the states. I'm much more comfortable with my governor, who I had a say in, leading things at the smaller level than an unelected bureaucrat out on cable news lamenting the fact that she doesn't have enough influence and power over my children. That's right.
I just get the idea. If you work at Fox, this is how it is. You turn up and you live inside a bubble, a constant bubble where there's no reality going on. James Carville there causing a little bit of a turbulence. So we all know, for example, eggs in any supermarket in America are kind of expensive at the moment. We're not far from needing a mortgage to get a dozen eggs. This is a balloon, a pair of scissors. If I go pop, you know what will happen. If I let it go, it may fly off. Now, Fox exists in the world where it's not going to pop and it's not going to fly off. It's going to be their own dimension. Ludicrous. And I tell you who else is in there. Caroline Levitt. This is 60 seconds of Caroline Levitt just trying to, because there is something that they're all doing within the Republican Trumpy Trump world. Let's blame it all on Biden. How long for? Shall we pop it or shall we let it go? Let's see if it floats. Here we go. This could well be the perfect metaphor to describe the first, how should we say, 6 days of the Trump economy. It came crashing down. Look, should we do it quite simply? 3, 2, 1. There we go. That's it.
Caroline, on the economy, you mentioned yesterday that this is a transition period. How does the White House measure this in terms of when can you not blame it on former President Biden, and when does it fully become President Trump's responsibility?
Well, we've only been here for 52 days, but certainly the president is working hard every day to, again, bring down the cost of living, which we see is already happening. You see the cost of eggs is going down, cost of gasoline is going down because of the massive deregulatory efforts of this president, and also the fact that we are delivering on his promise to drill, baby, drill already. You saw this past weekend, the National Economic Advisory put out a report that because of the regulations we've already slashed in just 52 days, we've saved American taxpayers $180 billion. That comes out to about $2,000 per American household. That's in 52 days. So the president is working diligently, and he's working hard on this every single day.